Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tanya Files. Today is December 13th, and I want to wish one of my favorite childhood actors a very special happy birthday. Today is Dick Van Dyke's 99th birthday. Yep. And he starred in a lot of classic roles such as Mary Poppins and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, which are two of my favorite movies I watched as a child. He also starred in his own TV show called The Dick Van Dyke Show. And I also remember he was in a movie, I'm trying to remember, At Night at the Museum. Yeah. I think I saw that movie maybe once, but I don't really remember that much about it, so I would have to rewatch it. There was even a time when Dick Van Dyke was even making like a children's rap CD. Now that was interesting. And I remember when they were planning on doing a reunion show for the Dick Van Dyke Show, I remember he said, we're going to get everyone back together, but I have to tell you, the only thing that's going to be different this time is that I'm not going to be able to fall over the furniture. I don't think I can do that anymore. That was so funny. Oh my gosh, that was so funny. That's one of the things I like about Dick Van Dyke. He is very charming, very funny, and I really wish I had the opportunity to meet him. Okay, so let's look at some pictures of him while I tell you some stories. Now, when I was a little girl, I would spend a lot of time with my grandparents, and we would always watch movies at their house and things like that. And every week, and I'm serious on this, every week we watched Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And I don't know if my grandparents ever got tired of watching it constantly, but as far back as I can remember, they never complained about it. And it was also, I have to admit this, when I was a kid, I loved to reenact like scenes from my favorite movies, and I would always do that with Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And sometimes even with Mary Poppins. And you see, that's another thing that I like about him, because even though he's in his 90s, I mean, come on, he is a very handsome man. Let me tell you. Very good-looking man. And he takes really good care of himself, Like, I remember there was even a time when he made an appearance when they were doing Stepping Time, which is a dancing song from Mary Poppins. And I don't know if it was on Broadway. It might have been on Broadway. But yeah, I saw the YouTube video and he made an appearance and the crowd went crazy because they were not expecting that. And I haven't seen every single episode of the Dick Van Dyke Show, but I'm thinking about looking them up on YouTube and checking them out and stuff like that. I remember there was one episode where he was talking about how, I guess when some people like get hurt in TV shows and people think it's funny or something, and as he was talking about it, he was like either falling down or something broke. Irony. Yeah, he was a really handsome man. I'm trying to remember, but I would say when I watched Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, I have the soundtrack, I have it on CD, and I also have the record that my grandparents had. But I don't think it was from the film, though. It might have been from a Broadway show version of it. Because I was always confused why it didn't sound like the music from the film whenever we would listen to the record. So it might have been from a Broadway show. Yeah. And it's just a really big part of my life, and if you haven't seen Chitty Chitty Bang Bang or The Dick Van Dyke Show or Mary Poppins, you definitely should. Now, in Mary Poppins, he played two characters, actually. I didn't notice his second character as much when I was a child, because I really wasn't paying attention. But he played Bert, who was a chimney sweep, sorry. And he also played the father, like the elderly father of one of the bankers. Yeah, and he did a really good job too. And man, that was funny. There were a few scenes when Dick Van Dyke was so funny as the senior. Yeah. Well, I probably should. Well, why not? Let's have a good laugh.
While stand the banks of England, England stands. Oh, 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 oh. When fall the banks of England, England falls.
That was one of my favorite parts of that movie just because he was so funny. He really went flying. Yeah, so, and the funniest thing that I can remember was in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Dick Van Dyke played Caractacus Potts, and I always thought that was an interesting name, Caractacus. I like that. And that was, I would always refer to him as Mr. Potts, because when I was a kid, I didn't understand that Dick Van Dyke was his real name. I was under the age of 10, just so everyone knows. And so the first time when I saw Mary Poppins and I saw him like playing some instruments at the very beginning of the film, I just remember saying, Grandma, look, it's Mr. Potts. And of course, they had to explain to me that his real name was Dick Van Dyke. But yeah. Yeah, so he is a wonderful actor, and he is just amazing, and he's not just a part of my childhood, but he reminds me of my grandparents, who I miss very dearly. And yeah. And the funny thing is, there are like 3 celebrities. Now, obviously, I don't know like how they are like personally, but based on how they are like in the public, there are 3 people who remind me of my grandfather in a good way, obviously. If I had to describe my grandfather, it would be like a combination of Tom Mesereau, who was the defense lawyer for Michael Jackson, Dick Van Dyke, and Bob Barker. And here's why I say that. You see, my grandfather was very soft-spoken and a gentleman, which would describe Dick Van Dyke and Tom Mesereau. Cared about the truth, Tom Mesereau, and just very charming, very funny, and just very sweet. And that would be Bob Barker and Dick Van Dyke. So, yeah, that's why, all of them just give me comfort. Now, unfortunately, we did lose Bob Barker. I think it was either last year or the year before. Bob Barker was 1 year away from his 100th birthday. So next year, Dick Van Dyke will be 100 years old. So, to Mr. Van Dyke, I just want to say thank you so much for the wonderful movies and TV shows, and even your health advice for people. You've made so many people laugh over the years, and your legacy will live on forever, and I really hope that you'll still be with us for a long time. I know you're 99 this year, but you're just a really big part of my life, and I just want to say thank you, because you really are an inspiration and just a wonderful person. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed this episode. Happy birthday, Dick Van Dyke.